So Frida, what has been your experience of satsang with Canela on retreat?
Yeah, we were just talking about it actually. I couldn't have imagined the recognition of permission and allowance that was introduced by her, how she sets the how she brings what she brings to satsang, how she is in it gives it's an allowing space, and it just feels so recognized through this work, through this satsang. And if only it's like, so it was a small satsang, which was a surprise, and I know it's November, but it's just, it feels such an honour to be here, and such, like I was saying to Canela, I don't know that I knew what I was doing when I invited her. Do you know, it was like, it's much, it's such a what enriching experiences, sort of coming home to yourself in a way, so nice. And of course the tendency is to try and get great words to describe it, but actually that's more or less what's going on for me at the moment, a real gratitude and appreciation for being here, and for being with her and in her presence and with everybody here, because that feels equally important actually. That exercise we did last night of sitting up in the chair, when you look around and you see, as everybody described, the beauty of everybody there. You don't know whether it's your heart is open or whether everybody's heart is open. Yes. It's just the experience. It's just quite amazing. And that whole thing of taking a step, she likes to have people sit with her, either on the couch or in front of her. But
the hot seat.
The hot seat. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that when you make the step up, it's something changes. And I didn't quite understand what that was. Yes. Because why isn't I'm sitting here, I'm very close to you, I can talk to you.
Yes.
But no, there's something about in yourself. And I recognise it now, as she describes it as a yes to yourself. And that actually changes.
There's a shift.
Yeah, very, very much so. Very much so. Yeah.
And could you say just a little bit more around the purpose of the exercise last night, when we were all invited to sit in where she was sitting?
I think how she said, she just wanted us to see that we were absolutely complete in ourselves, or, well, complete isn't the word, because she doesn't actually put edges on anything, but that we were all right in ourselves. Yes. That's what I got.
Yeah. And to invite that yes to ourselves.
Yes.
To come up and embody that.
Yes.
Place on the couch where she had been sitting.
Yes.
Yes.
And to take away that notion that there was some degree of separation between us, or, and actually that's so apparent in her presence and how she is with people. There doesn't seem to be anything in her that demands that difference,
Yes.
So that would look like accessibility, but it's actually quite huge. And what it does, yes. What it brings out, and lovely.
Well, thank you, Frida.
Okay.
And thank you for listening to that whatever it was to invite Canela here to be
Yeah.
in Aherlow with us.
I
here.
know.
Yeah.
And I really, the first time you had made these beautiful brochures, Julie, and I thought, Julie's after coming to mine. Sure, I'll go up anyway, and I'll go. Really. But of course, as she says, the moments are rolling towards each other and no.
The play of it all.
Yeah.
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 Thank you, Frida.
Right. Yeah. I suppose you're asking me what's it been like for me. I'm kind of still very much in the kind of reverberations of the last session, which were quite revealing to me in relation to perhaps the kind of the obstacles and my own route, wherever that's actually going, were kind of revealed in a very caring. I was very impressed actually by her capacity to really know, and felt very moved by it. Still am. I hadn't met her before, and I suppose again being male and somewhat kind of not so much cautious. I'm probably of a generation that perhaps sort of wouldn't be so fluid in the company. Sounds awful when I say that, but her capacity to empathise was. Now I'm reporting on this actually after the event, but just looking back now, it's very helpful. Yeah. I'm working in the helping professions myself, and there's a kind of capacity that she has to help me to kind of ground myself in more of a. I suppose it's difficult to find words, but sort of the nothingness that kind of gives rise to a rich something, that sort of, that sense, it was very, very, it's helpful, I suppose, in the practical sense too, really, of everyday living. And this sounds kind of a commentary and a bit uncomfortable, but her style, if I can put it that way, was there was a goodness of fit I found actually between whatever was going on for me and her engagement with me in terms of being very helpful, really, and the kind of magic of finding sort of knowledges about oneself and one's practice was very sort of both moving and kind of enlightening. Yeah, I'm kind of half in and half out of it. There's a kind of a processing going on still, which and
when you say you're working in the helping profession, do you feel that you could bring some of what you've experienced here into your professional life?
Of course, but it's more bringing myself into my professional life in whatever is bringing what into my professional life.
Yes.
Feels it is I intuit it as being an intuition really of reliance, and that may not be kosher to say, but we do need that sort of I would call it groundedness. I think I have used satsang as such, these encounters really with but not that many teachers actually, but I would think I haven't met Canela. I sometimes Canela. I haven't met her before until now, but and I have a very small number of encounters with satsang teachers. I tend to keep it small, but she's definitely would be on my list really. Yeah.
Wonderful.
I think her sense of her knowledge of what I would call of existential psychology. Now I'm talking in psychological terms, but also from that kind of spiritual, whatever it is that it is, yeah.
Yes.
There's a sort of a really good, you kind of sense it really.
Yes.
Yeah, you sense it, yeah.
It's in the sensing.
Yeah, you sense it, yeah. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Declan.
Thank Canela, actually.
So what has been your experience of being in Satsang with Canela during this retreat?
Satsang with Canela. For me, it's been about being completely, or being, start again, being able to completely be myself, to be totally natural, and there's no rules, no regulations, nothing to follow, just totally and utterly be me. And the consequence of that is that then I'm available for everybody. It's not a personal, selfish thing at all. And it's just, it's very relaxing. Sometimes difficult, things come up. Things come up to be seen, and she has a beautiful way of really totally being with you so that you can see them and move through them in a way that in all the satsangs I've ever done before, it's never been quite like this. Just that real ease.
Lovely. And what, for you, that ease that you speak about, what do you think that is, or how is that experienced for you?
There's a difference to just sitting and hearing, even when Canela speaks, a difference in just hearing about it to actually sitting with her. Her presence just allows you to fully see what's going on and just really rest with it, breathe through it. All the things that I've read in self-help books about what you should do when this happens or when you feel like this, and it all makes perfect sense when you read it, but it comes alive by sitting with her, and her presence just allows it to happen, I would say.
So allows you to
be myself.
Yes. Directly.
Yeah, directly.
Beautiful. Thank you, Angela.
You're welcome.
Okay.
So what has been your experience of Satsang with Canela on this retreat?
Okay. Well, I joined the retreat. It had already been on for 2 days. So my first experience was people talking about their experience of the night before. And everything they were saying resonated with me, and I thought, what they're talking about receiving is exactly what I came for. Because I knew that at this point, what I wanted to do was to meet myself as love, and that what I needed was an emotional heart opening. So everything that's been happening since I've been here has been completely about that. And what's been happening for me through working with other teachers, and Tess Hughes in particular that I work with, and she's wonderful, has been a coming back to myself and just being ordinary Gillian Tracy, accepting what I am, the full spectrum of what I am, warts and all.
Yes.
And looking at ego all the time and just observing what's going on, because that's very much, Tessa's teaching. It's about coming down out of fantasy and illusion and just noticing what is and noticing what's happening all the time and keeping noticing that. And I find that Canela puts that beautifully, because it's always about being with what is, because what is what is. It's consciousness being what consciousness is being.
Yes.
And what I've been getting from Canela here, which is wonderful, is about just being okay with what I am, what is, noticing it, and not resisting or rejecting it, which has been what the theme of today has been. It's been ongoing anyway, but allowing the energy that is already present, anything that's already present, anything that I imagine I don't like about myself, to just be with it because the energy is here already, and to recognise I have the capacity to be with it.
Yes.
You know, and nothing is going to actually do any damage to what I am. It can be allowed.
Yes.
And it can be seen, and it can be just, you know, there's no need to be scared of anything that I'm going to see in myself.
Because it's already happened.
Yeah, because it's already here, and it's not going to do anything anyway.
Yeah.
You know, anything that I don't like or I perceive not to like about myself is just okay if I just allow it, because it's only part of a huge spectrum anyway.
And what was or has been your experience of allowing that which is here to be here fully? What's that been like for you?
More self-acceptance, I would say, you know, and that what I am is enough.
Yes.
You know, what I am is enough, and what I am is a gift. You know, and the present is a gift. I mean, she read that out earlier, and
yes.
Now, what I'll take away and what I'll be like at work in the morning, I don't know, but I know from experience that, you know, working with teachers and retreats, every bit helps because the intention is there.
Yes.
And I certainly would recommend Canela. Canela. And, you know, great love here and great allowing, and it's okay to be with emotions, and it's okay to express them and just let the energy flow and not freeze it.
Wonderful.
So, and thank you to everybody, you know, who's shared, and yeah, it's great. I'm so glad I'm here, and I would recommend anybody who's looking for this to connect with Canela, definitely.
Great. Thank you, Julie.
Okay, thank you very much.
So, Julie, what has this experience been like for you, being on a retreat with Canela?
There's been an immense feeling of joy, together with lots of other things. But yes, I feel that there's more of a lightening of heart, this heart here. And when in the hot seat with Canela, my experience has been that it just felt so easy just to come and sit and settle into what's here.
And this hot seat, is this an opportunity for you to go deeper into yourself, to explore some questions you haven't asked, maybe?
Absolutely, absolutely. Like, for example, the other day in the hot seat, and this has often been my experience with Canela, either working with her in Satsang or on Skype sessions, is that I might come with one thing, and just sitting in the space and Canela opening that up and allowing me to open up to whatever energies are here has opened up so many other things. So, for example, the other day I came and I sat with a feeling of guilt that had been arising for me last week, and just by sitting with it and really the permission there for me to sit and be with that energy of guilt and where it was residing in my body opened up so much. And I found myself touching on something that's been with me for so long now, which is a real collective thing around my just utter despair of what's going on for so many people in the world at the moment, and what in particular what seems to be happening in Syria. And instead of, you know, subtly sometimes pushing that away in my everyday life when I feel, well, I don't really have time to go there, or it just feels too unbearable to go and open up into that. It was a beautiful opportunity for that to happen. And the depth of feeling of just sitting with the pain of what's happening and just really allowing the heart to crack open. And the sense of just allowing that to happen, and the sense afterwards, it was like a light coming on in my head. Or I think I said like how the air feels after a rain shower or a storm. Just a real sense of clarity.
And do you feel in sharing that with other people, with Canela, that expands that feeling and gives you a greater sense of freedom and release?
Absolutely.
Understanding.
Absolutely. And we spoke about that today actually in Satsang, that what can feel so confusing sometimes, that when we are feeling something perhaps personal or collective, or today we were talking about the destruction of the ecology system or whatever it might be, that it's actually the greatest and most compassionate action of all, notwithstanding action that can happen, that can be made manifest in the world, but what we can do is just to sit with those energies as they come up and allow them to be and to move, and trusting that divine intelligence that is here. And as a result, as you were pointing to, it's like instead of bouncing off that or fortifying that energy in some way when we perhaps deflect from it in some way, that by opening up and allowing it to be here, it somehow, as you say, expands in a way that perhaps our minds can never know, and that's certainly been my experience. And that it's such a subtle and yet powerful way of being in the world that has really touched my life on every level, as a mother, as a daughter, as a wife, in my profession, as I work with people on every level, as a citizen of the world.
Right. I would imagine that one of the things that people coming together who don't know each other need is a level of safety and care.
Yeah.
Has that been your experience with?
Yes.
And is it all? The other question is about it all being very serious.
Yeah. I love that. Yes, just to touch on the safety and care. I mean, that's first of all, that's the first time I met Canela was actually on a Skype session. So, I didn't know her. I corresponded with her a bit on email, and just instantly a feeling of holding and a feeling of safety to really feel into what was here. So there was an implicit trust that she was mirroring back to me that just allowed me to open up on Skype, which it's not in person, but it didn't seem to matter. And in the Satsang experience, and especially here, in a 5-day retreat in this beautiful container that is Aherlow Castle, it's just been thickening and thickening, that sense of safety and the container of the group, and that it's like we've all been expanding, and it's been so heart-centered.
So with that comes a level of opening and closeness and
absolutely,
trust,
absolutely,
enjoyment,
and
pleasure,
and it brings me back to the word joy that came first in just that invitation to be joyous if it turns up, but when it does turn up, to allow it, and the sharing of laughter when it comes, just to allow that to be here. And there's been so much laughter and so many sweet and endearing moments and so much fun. And Canela herself just embodies that. You know, there's such an invitation.
Right. I'm just wondering what you'd say to somebody who's nervous about coming into a group.
Yes.
And who really wants to explore some of these questions and just be in the presence of someone like Canela, what you would say to them?
Well, predominantly, yes, as you've referred to, safety is just implicit. And as you know, somebody who works with people therapeutically myself, you know, I have some sort of sense of what it's like to hold space or to hold an energy, and you know, it can be difficult, and you know, it's something that Canela is just masterful. I would say a master at, in a very intuitive, what seems gentle way. So from that perspective, there's so much safety. And I think even coming into a group and just perhaps bearing witness to what's happening for other folks as they come up into the hot seat, and just allowing whatever happens to happen is just incredibly powerful without even going into the hot seat yourself. Just to see what moves for people.
Because sometimes what's moving for one person is actually arising for others also.
Exactly.
So they're feeling a kind of mutual receptivity to what's being talked about.
Absolutely.
And maybe they might not speak, but they're going to have the experience, a release, just by being in the room.
Exactly.
In that collective energy.
And you know, I think what anybody brings up to the hot seat, there's a universality about it, or when it, you know, the thing that they may initially present with, when they deepen into what's there, there's certainly a theme or an energy that I think everybody in the room can relate to.
So for those who don't know, could you just say a little bit? It sounds slightly scary, the hot seat.
Yeah, it does.
What is it?
It's a space that's Canela has created and opens up to anybody who would like to come, and
you sit with her.
You sit with her in front of her, or here it happens to be on the couch beside her. And somebody else referred to it as Canela's way of inviting yourself to say yes to yourself by not just perhaps staying in the spot where you are and asking your question or engaging, but by standing up and placing yourself in another state of consciousness nearly. A shift seems to happen, and with that shift there just seems to be an openness there.
So it's like an act of self-love.
Absolutely.
Also.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Julie.